So right now I'd like to look at something called diagonal sheathing. We don't see it on very many houses. I mean, I'd say like 1 out of 100, practically none of them. But it is there, and it's really important to know about because it has a big impact on any retrofit. Now, the one place we do see a lot of diagonal sheathing is on either side of a garage door opening in San Francisco. Pretty much every house we look at has that, and they do that to stabilize the wall. So I'm going to show you, a little bit more about that right now. So the way you tell diagonal sheathing is you have a wall that, the siding is at an angle. So you can see this is the siding, this is the wood siding right here, and it's going at an angle like this. You see another one right next to it at an angle like this, and then it'll be nailed here into the mud sill. Usually 3 to 4 nails go into this. And then the great thing about diagonal sheathing is normally we see it along the entire wall. So it'll go way up there. It's not just in the cripple wall. It'll go way, way up high. So, and it'll be nailed into the top plate right here. So let's go ahead and look and see what the code has to say about this material. It's really surprising how strong it is. So as you can see in this row that's highlighted by yellow that represents diagonal sheathing, it has a fair amount of capacity. This right here on the chart where it says sheathing nominal dimensions, what that means is that rather than being a full 1 inches thick, it's only 3/4 of an inch thick. Or right here where it says 2 inches thick, it's actually 1.5 inches thick. But no matter which ones you use and what configuration, and how they're nailed, they're all worth 600 pounds per linear foot. And that's quite a bit. 600 pounds per linear foot is, that's actually stronger than plywood, which is nailed 3 inches on center, 3 inches apart, with 8-penny nails. However, there is something where we have to reduce it. And there's a section there that says nominal unit shear capacity shall be adjusted in accordance with 4.2.3 to determine ASD allowable unit shear capacity. In other words, that's the same as you would find in the shear wall tables, the same type of rating that you would find in the shear tables. And what that section says is you must divide by 2. So when you look at the diagonal sheathing, this number right here you divide by 2, and that is your actual rating for the plywood relative to shear walls. Now, if you have an entire wall that's braced with diagonal sheathing, it's in pretty good shape, because in a regular retrofit you'll usually do maybe 1/4 of the wall, maybe. Probably, that's normal at, maybe 600 pounds or 500 pounds per linear foot. But if you do if the entire wall already can resist 300 pounds per linear foot, I would put that on my low, probably at the bottom of my list in terms of things I need to do on my house. I'd look at a kitchen remodel or something before I look at that. Now, the one thing I do want to point out, which is fairly important, is it says right here in the building code for new construction that single and double diagonal sheath lumber walls shall not be used to resist seismic forces. Now, that's simply because plywood is available. So they're not going to have people, putting in, diagonal sheathing when plywood would work. Plus, nobody in their right mind would do it anyway because it'd be so expensive. But anyway, that's for new construction. It's not allowed. But, overall, it really can resist earthquakes pretty well, and that's something that I would consider. I'd like to go back to table 4.2D and show you something important. So you see here where it says horizontal lumber sheathing. That means boards that are just going left to right. You see it all the time. You go by any house, it's made out of wood. If you look underneath the stucco, you'll see the exact same thing. It's just a board that goes left to right and not at an angle, which is what diagonal sheathing is. So when it's horizontal like that, and it's, no matter, how big it is, it's a 2x6, a 2x8, whatever it is, as far as the thickness of the wood, no matter how many nails you put in it, it ends up being only 100 pounds per linear foot. Now, that's why we retrofit houses, is because it's so small. Now, if we take that and then we divide, like we did when we used this footnote right here, when we divide that by 2, These walls don't have a lot of capacity. The stucco has a lot of capacity, which is over the this horizontal sheathing. But as soon as the stucco fails, then you just have the horizontal sheathing, and it's simply not enough to hold the house up. So this is actually the reason that we retrofit a house. This is why we put plywood on a house, is because this horizontal sheathing just doesn't have the amount of strength we need. So I hope you found this information on diagonal sheathing helpful. This is kind of, a retrofit propeller head would be interested in this sort of thing. But, if you're doing your house, or if you're a contractor and you happen to see this diagonal sheathing, you may just want to leave it alone. One thing I would like to say is that, maybe look and, see if there's been a lot of dirt that's been touching the bottom where the diagonal sheathing is nailed to the mud sill. If the nails are rusted out, naturally this won't, work particularly well. But if everything's pretty solid, I certainly, if I had a nice long wall and had diagonal sheathing, I probably wouldn't even touch it except put some bolts in. One thing I'd like for you to do is to, in the comments section, let me know if this information was helpful, and especially if you even knew that diagonal sheathing could be so earthquake resistant. I'm just trying to figure out who has this knowledge and who doesn't, so it'd be great to hear from you if you were aware of this, and if it's, especially if it's helpful to you.